Andrew Bridgen to move.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I beg to move the motion in my name on the order paper. We are witnesses to the greatest medical scandal in this country in living memory, and possibly ever. The excess deaths in 2022 and 2023 is that scandal. Its causes are complex, but the novel and untested medical treatment described as a COVID vaccine is a large part of the problem. I've been called an anti-vaxxer, as if I rejected these vaccines based on some ideology. I want to state clearly and unequivocally that I have not. I am in fact double vaccinated and vaccine harmed. Intelligent people must be able to distinguish between people being neither pro-vax or anti-vax, but against a product that A, doesn't work and B, causes enormous harm to a percentage of the people who take it. I'm proud to be one of the few members of Parliament with a science degree. It's a great shame there are not more members with a science background in this place. Maybe if there were, there'd be less reliance on Whip's office briefings, more independent research, and perhaps less groupthink. And I say to the House, and I say it in all seriousness, this debate and others like it is going to be pored over by future generations. And they will be genuinely agog that the evidence has been ignored for so long, and that genuine concerns were disregarded, and those raising them were gaslit, smeared and vilified. In conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, it's clear, the evidence is clear. These vaccines have caused deaths, and despite this, they've been described as safe and effective. But for a proportion of the people who took them, the vaccines have caused serious harm and death, and they will have raised the risk of cancer to many, many more. Neither are they effective. The vaccine does not prevent infection or transmission, and when the data is looked at objectively, it does not prevent serious illness or death either. These are very hard truths to face, but we must face them, Madam Deputy Speaker, if we want to learn the lessons of the last few years. At some point, we'll have to face up that all the evidence is building. It was fairly convincing 18 months ago when I first spoke out. It is unequivocal now. So I ask the House, it's time to take the politics out of our science, and we need to put some actual science back into our politics. I ask the House to support the motion today for the Baroness Hallett's inquiry to open Module 4 on the safety and efficacy of the experimental COVID-19 vaccines. And given the evidence, Madam Deputy Speaker, I call on the Government once again to immediately suspend the use of all mRNA treatments in both humans and animals, pending the outcome of that inquiry.
No. We would have to clear the gallery if clapping continues. I would order it if necessary.
One of the most important speeches of my life. It was disappointing. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that I was told only minutes before I got to speak that I got to cut my speech down to 15 minutes, and I'd prepared a 30-minute speech. I went and argued with the Speaker's office and managed to get it to 20 minutes, but I still had to do that minutes before I was on my feet speaking. But I think it came over okay. We used all the time, about 2.5 hours of the debate we got, and I'm delighted that colleagues from across the House spoke in that debate on both sides of the argument, and ultimately that's what a Parliament's supposed to be about, debating the issues that are important to the people. And there's nothing more important than excess deaths and COVID harms, I think, at the moment.
Well, it is to parlay, that's where we get Parliament from, isn't it? And do you think people are now coming around? Because you've been fighting to have this debate for quite a while, haven't you?
Well, the evidence was pretty considerable 18 months ago when I first spoke out. I mean, it's overwhelming now. Every week there's more evidence. Paper out last week in Japan of a clear link now between people who've had the boosters and increased cancer. We know why. It's the SV40, the simian virus 40 promoter region that Pfizer didn't disclose are in their vaccines. I mean, there's a clear link with promoting cancer.
And so, are you seeing more MPs now than before coming to your side?
No, the MPs have got their hands in the blood up to their armpits, most of them. They'll have put out thousands, hundreds if not thousands of letters saying that the vaccines are safe and effective over the last few years. There's a general election coming later this year, and they really just want to hold the line until after the general election, because there is, on both sides of the House, there's so much political capital that the vaccines are safe and effective, which they're neither safe nor effective.
And can I confirm that you're running in the next general election?
I'm running as an independent in the next election. I've come to the conclusion you can either have an MP who represents a party in your constituency, or you can have an MP who represents the people in Parliament, but you can't have both. Can't have both.
And your constituency would be?
North West Leicestershire, my home.
And so if people wanted to come out and support you and campaign for you, I take it you're going to need a lot of people on the ground.
We need support, and if you go on my new campaign website, which is bridgen.uk, you can sign up there to come and help canvass or online campaigning, whatever. There's lots of stuff.
And do you think that in this coming general election, you getting in again is going to be a real sign to the establishment that this needs to be dealt with? And do you think that's the sort of crack that's going to bring
Well, if I can't beat the uniparty hegemony in North West Leicestershire, a seat I've won 4 times as an MP with an increased majority every time, it's going to be very hard for any independents. And independents are the answer, because the party system is completely corrupted. The party system's completely corrupted from the top down.
Well, one thing I do say to people, I actually tutor children in history, and I say William Wilberforce was an independent. Would we have a William Wilberforce today?
Well, I'd like to be compared with that, and with the issue we're fighting here is as difficult. It's a worldwide problem. I was thrown out of the Conservative Party for tweeting that a leading cardiologist had said that the vaccine rollout is the biggest crime against humanity since the Holocaust. I'm afraid I think it's going to be bigger than the Holocaust, because I think we've got to be somewhere between 10 and 20 million people have been killed by these experimental vaccines worldwide, and it's still going up.
And do you think that there's a chance, if the Conservative Party is destroyed in the coming general election, that you'll be able to replace it with something better, or replace it with a coalition of independents?
What we need to replace the whole of that Parliament with, we need to get rid of the House of Lords. They're absolutely useless. There've been no protection to the public whatsoever. We need to halve the number of MPs, and what we need to do is all the laws, every 3 months, they have to be voted on by referendum by the people. It's direct democracy. That is taking back control. And because if we sort this mess out, I don't want to ever be in the position where this can be done to the people ever again. Right? And direct democracy is the answer. That will stop it.
And do you also see reform of our courts as being an answer as well? Because
absolutely.
I was recently on trial for having been attacked by the police over there. I got 2 not guilties.
Yeah. Well, I'm afraid all the institutions currently in our country, all the barrels of our institutions are rotten at the top. Not all the apples are rotten, but all the apples at the top of the barrel are rotten, and every apple that wants to rise to the top has to be rotted. Well, we've got to take the top off all the barrels, I'm afraid.
And are you hearing support from across the world against this? Is this now a sort of global movement fighting against the globalist movement?
Oh yes, and it's going to get bigger.
Beautiful.
Right.
Thank you so much,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Raw milk conspiracy.
You don't have to say anything, but we'll pin it on you in court. You don't have to say anything. The jury's stacked, the judge bought.
Where can people see you playing? What have you got coming up?
Yeah, so the next gig we got is going to be at Underground Sounds.
Why were you so angry? Why was the police officer dragging you to the floor? What do you feel about all the day's events? Thank you very much.
The fear deliberately stoked up by the government promoted the idea of being rescued by a saviour vaccine. The chanting of the safe and effective narrative began. The phrase seemed to hypnotise the whole nation. Madam Deputy Speaker, safe and effective was the sales slogan of thalidomide.
Let go! Right, put him in cuffs! Put him in cuffs!